With the 2014 midterms in the rearview mirror, Republicans are already looking ahead to the 2016 presidential elections. The only problem is that their top-tier candidates like Christie and Kasich are already facing massive probes for their unsavory conduct. Joining me now to talk about all of the problems the GOP has in the run-up to 2016 is Howard Nations. Howard, the Republicans are coming off this, midterm high. Right now, they're feeling invincible. They think, everything is right in front of them. They know exactly what they want. But 2016 is still a long ways away, and they have some serious problems as they move forward. Because believe it or not, we're already in presidential campaign season. What's happening with them?
Well, the Republican governors are getting off to kind of a bad start. The ones that are planning to run for president or would like to run for president in 2016. Scott Walker from Wisconsin is avoiding a labor fight. John Kasich in Ohio is battling the state legislature on taxes. Christie in New Jersey is battling the Democrats over the Port Authority. Bobby Jindal in Louisiana dropped his plans for tax reform completely. Then you got Rick Perry in Texas, who's under indictment, which is actually a badge of honor for the far right that he gets his support from. And then, of course, Governor McDonald from Virginia just got sentenced to 2 years in prison. I have no doubt he'll come back in 2 years and run as a politician with convictions. So the presidential game plan is not working out really well for them.
And it is important to focus on these governors, as that really is that's the crop. That's where they essentially grow their next GOP leaders. That's where Mitt Romney came from. That's where George W. Bush came from. His brother Jeb, former governor of Florida, he's probably headed back in there too. And he has just as many skeletons in his closet as some of these other guys. The only problem is, when you take a guy like Scott Walker, he's a guy who barely survived his recall election, barely survived his re-election this year. Let's go from the top with him. I mean, this guy is facing more problems at the moment than almost anybody.
Yeah, to follow up on your point about governors, though, before we get to Walker, it's not just the Republicans. The easiest place as a launch pad for the presidency is the governorship. George Bush actually set the example in Texas by working across the aisle with Democrats. But he's following the lead of Reagan, and then Democrats, Carter, Clinton, Bush, they make a record as governor, then they run for president where they have no Washington baggage, which is extremely important these days. And you don't have the multiple voting record that a United States senator who's made thousands of votes that they can hit. But mostly they run as an outsider to Washington dysfunction. So when you get to a guy like Scott Walker, for example, right now, he's got his day job as the governor of Wisconsin, but at the same time he's trying to run for president. Walker fought with the Wisconsin lawmakers now. Ever since their election, it's been a battle because he, of course, was recalled because of his huge battle, his attacks on unions. So the people who were just elected in November in Wisconsin, the conservative Republicans, want him now to take on right-to-work laws. They want him to really go hard after union shops and where they're forcing workers to pay union dues as a condition of employment. He doesn't want that. The right-wing conservatives who were elected in November want it. He wants no part of it because he wants no more battles. He was so bloodied by his battle, he had to go through a recall election. But he made his reputation as a union buster, survived a recall vote. He was a complete lapdog for the Koch brothers. It's very expensive. He's run 3 races in a very short period of time. They put up huge amounts of money to keep him in office. He won from the Tea Party support as a right-wing ideologue, but now he wants to moderate his views and avoid disputes with Democrats and avoid the Washington dysfunction and focus on the economy and reach across the aisle. And the conservative Republicans absolutely won't let him do it. So, like others, he's getting big contests from his Republicans.
Well, see, you pointed out something really remarkable there is the fact that he's been through 3 recall elections in the last, or 3 elections, I should say, in the last 4.5 years. So, he's spent a lot of the Koch brothers' money. He's used a lot of the Tea Party's resources just in regards to manpower for these 3 elections. And on top of that, this fight against the unions is what bloodied him up so badly. And now he doesn't have to worry about another election for the governor of Wisconsin. Now he is looking forward, and he says, who can I alienate and who can I not alienate? And I think he realizes that he's already got his record as a union buster. He doesn't need to take it any further. That secures his far-right cred. But when you have so many Tea Party members running your state legislature, they want to just pull you as far to the right as possible. And I think at this point, Walker says, look, I'm as far right as I can go, but still maybe have a little bit of national appeal. Do you think that's kind of where he's at right now?
That's exactly where he is right now. And the Tea Party and the Koch brothers have a legitimate position. They put him in office. I mean, he could not have won without them. He could not have won recall without them. So now he tries to move on to moderate his positions more to become a national candidate. And they're saying, no, not on our watch.
You owe us. It's time for the payback.
Exactly.
And let's move from Wisconsin. Let's go a little bit further east, over in Ohio. John Kasich, who for the most part he has avoided some of the massive media publicity of a guy like Scott Walker or Christie, but he is facing just as many problems in Ohio. One of the few things that he actually did get some attention for was ahead of both the midterms and the 2012 election was all of his efforts to kind of purge the voting rolls. But, as far as he's concerned, that's the least of his concerns right now. He's got some other problems up there. What's happening with him?
Well, he has the same problem that they have in Wisconsin, in that his Republicans won big in 2014, but they are resistant to Kasich's tax on cigarettes and natural gas drilling that's going on up there. And they have a major problem because they ran and they were elected on a $2.6 billion income tax cut promise. So now it's up to Kasich to deliver on that promise, and they're having a lot of controversy over what they can cut, where that money comes from. If you're going to cut $2.6 billion from the income tax, where's the money come from? And big battles over that, and the battles are with his far right wing. He's also got the customary battle of the far right is the battle over abortion in Ohio. The Republicans want a heartbeat bill. That is they outlaw abortion on fetal heartbeat. But Kasich questions the legality of that. He doesn't think it'll stand up, and he doesn't want to take that position. So he faces primary attacks. If he gets into Republican primaries, he's going to be attacked big time from the far right as he tries to moderate on key issues and move to the middle.
Well, see, one of the benefits that Kasich does have is that outside of the state of Ohio, anybody who's not paying very close attention to politics, they don't know all that much about him. He could have appeal to, say, a moderate voter in the state of Florida or a moderate voter in, California that really doesn't know his background and know how extreme that he has been and that he promised to be. And with regards to this income tax issue, we're going he comes in office and says, we're going to cut this, over $2 billion from state income tax. Everybody gets a tax break on me. Hey, it's great. And then when he gets there and you finally look at the numbers and you say, oh my God, we can't do this. We don't have the money. I forgot that money doesn't just magically appear to fill these holes. And so the Tea Party says, no. Again, just like Scott Walker, you have to fulfill those promises. And he says, well, to do that, we're going to have to raise taxes on cigarettes. We're going to have to raise taxes in other places. And as soon as those words, raise taxes, come out of his mouth, the Tea Party just tunes out. It's, they can't handle that phrase. It just sets something off so crazy inside them. So,
also, like Walker, Kasich took on the union. He signed a labor law curtailing collective bargaining rights for union members. But he got huge support there from the Tea Party, but he got huge demonstrations from liberals, just as Walker did. He didn't get a recall, but what he did get was Ohio voters overturned his anti-labor law in a referendum. So he took on the unions and ultimately lost with the public, so he can't go there. Kasich denies a dispute with his own Republican legislature by claiming that, well, we agree on most everything, but he is absolutely unlikely to reach across the aisle to Democrats because his Republicans are going to keep pulling him right back.
Well, for Republicans, agreeing on most things is not enough. It really, they really are. It's got to be 100% or nothing. And moving on from Kasich again, I guess we go to no pun intended, the biggest fish out there, and that is Christie. Now, Christie really, if you look at the entire crop of Republicans, I think he is the best shot of grabbing the nomination and posing a serious threat to whoever his Democratic challenger is. But, this guy seems to just shake off scandal after scandal after scandal and still walk out ahead and feel like he won. And in a way he has. Give us a rundown on what's going on with Christie these days.
Well, he's in a different position than Walker and Kasich because his battle is primarily with Democrats. Starting with the George Washington bridge scandal, he's still under investigation there, legislative investigation, and they've got people that they're going to be deposing, and some people still have to give statements that could very easily, when it comes down to the bottom line, involve him directly. But the Democratic-led legislature wants to pass a bill to reform the Port Authority, which is the source of all that scandal. And Christie threatens to veto the bill. So the legislature is they're trying to pull together the votes now to override the bill. And they're going to bring the bill to the floor. He's going to give his State of the State speech on the 13th. And the same day he gives his State of the State speech, they're going to introduce that bill on the floor and just start right away slamming at his cronyism in the Port Authority. That's what it's all about. But he's under pressure to raise taxes because there's big economic problems in New Jersey. They have to pay for a transportation fund, and that's going to cause you have those magic words again, raise taxes. And that's what will cause a major conflict with his Republicans and his conservative backers. And then the whole state has economic problems. New Jersey, Atlantic City is going bankrupt. There are 5 major casinos in New Jersey that have closed in Atlantic City. Airlines have stopped flying there directly. If I want to go, I'm going to speak in Atlantic City, and I have to fly to Philadelphia and take the shuttle bus from Philadelphia to Atlantic City now because they've done away with the direct flights. Nonstop flights there.
Jeez. Well, as you pointed out, he's got these fights with these Democrats over the Port Authority and over his cronyism. And, in the past, he always, the guy is like a supervillain in the regards that, you think you've taken him out and then all of a sudden he, pops out from behind the corner to just come back at you again. It almost seems like this guy is really, has shaken everything off and is really in it for the long haul. But on the same page, he is a lot like George W. Bush in regards to the cronyism. We saw Bush's cronyism when he was governor of Texas. He's like, hey, you're a friend of mine. I got a job for you. Hey, you gave me a lot of money. I got a job for you over here. And Christie has done the exact same thing in New Jersey, and that's what's caused a lot of his problems. And if he were to make it to the White House, I would be almost terrified to see what kind of people he would put into positions of power.
Well, Christie has 2 other problems. Number one, in the state, he's an absentee governor. Statistic came out recently that said that 40% of his time that he has been governor, he's been out of the state. He's, as you know, head of the Republican Governors Conference. And so while the state economy has been collapsing in New Jersey, he's been out fundraising for other politicians in Iowa and all over the country. And the second problem he has that comes from the outside is that the entry of Jeb Bush, into the presidential race is going to dry up a lot of Christie money because they have the same financial sources. That is, the Wall Street guys who would back Christie would prefer to back Jeb Bush. So I think Jeb Bush was pretty clearly entering the race. His entry into the race is going to dry up a lot of Christie money. And the third thing about Christie is that bullying that goes on in New Jersey. You know, that's fair game in New Jersey. It's okay in New Jersey, but I'm not sure how his bullying attitude when he's bullying press members who are trying to get information to pass on to voters, I'm not sure that's going to go over so well in the rest of the country.
Right. Well, one thing's for certain. Obviously, the next year and a half of primaries and debates, it's certainly going to be a freak show, but it's going to be very entertaining. And Howard, appreciate you telling us this story today. Always great talking with you.
My pleasure, Farron. Thanks.